What if the people who've spent years acting untouchable are suddenly told in front of the entire country that their time in the shadows is over, that the era of silence is finished, and the reckoning they thought they could outrun is already on its way? Because that's exactly what happened the moment Eric Swalwell leaned into the microphone, looked straight across the room, and told two of the most powerful figures in immigration enforcement that accountability is coming, and they cannot escape it. He didn't whisper it, he didn't imply it. He named names, and the warning he delivered wasn't wrapped in political niceties, it was a countdown.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized. I yield back on my time. The gentleman from California is recognized.
One day we'll reconcile, Mr. Chairman, the richness of an Ivy League investment banker, Nepo congressman telling us that we need to get rid of the people who pick our food, wash our cars, build our homes, enrich our communities. We'll get to that. But today, this legislation is about making it easier for ICE to remove more of our friends and neighbors. And I guess the question I have is it really that hard for you right now? Is there anything that's getting in your way from just lawlessly going into our communities and detaining American citizens, terrorizing women as masked bandits who are not identified, run through the streets, chase people through fields, go into car washes, go to Home Depot parking lots? Like, are you having a difficult time just ripping people away from their families, and you think you need more abilities to do it? Also, quite interesting that you're asking for more legal authorities because you don't even follow the laws that are on the books right now. So what are we doing here, I guess, is my first question. But the American people are telling you, get the hell out of our homes, our streets, and our lives. And I want to play a video, Mr. Chairman, that illustrates that.
I was going to school.
When the spray hit Veraza on the side of his head.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay? Are you okay?
He's a citizen! He's a citizen!
They do not have a warrant. They forcefully open the door.
No resistance. What am I doing? Kevin! Hey, get on the ground!
I will if you let me go! He doesn't have charges! Why would you let him go?
Get back, I'm gonna shoot you! You're gonna what? You're gonna hit me?
Not touching the car, leave me alone! Look what they're doing!
No.
The American people were promised that the most violent individuals would be removed. And instead, we've been given this. You even deported a child, U.S. citizen, fighting cancer. You deported Miguel Lopez, my constituent, who's been in the country for almost 30 years, worked at a local winery, sent his kids to the high school in my hometown. And he showed up to his immigration proceeding following the law, and he was picked up by ICE and sent to Mexico. And every Sunday night, his wife Rosa and their family look at an empty chair where Miguel used to sit for 30 years with his family. What did we get out of that? Who's better off because Miguel, who was following the law, is not in our community? But earlier this month, the American people from Virginia to New Jersey to Pennsylvania, all the way out to California, sent a message that a reckoning is on its way, that accountability is coming. And this lawlessness that's gone unchecked, a lot's going to change. The masks are going to come off. Officers will identify themselves. And Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, you should familiarize yourself with the four corners of this room. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, get to know that witness chair. You're going to be parked in it for a long time. You're going to have a lot of questions under oath with the subpoena power. And I hope what you're doing is clean and can withstand the scrutiny that everyone on this side of the aisle is going to bring. You think we won't do it. You think you're invincible. You're wrong. Accountability is coming. You've got about a year, and I yield back.
For nearly a decade, Americans have watched an enforcement system operating with a level of autonomy that would shake anybody paying attention. Families pulled from their homes. Workers dragged away while trying to feed their loved ones. Children crying as masked agents, faces covered, badges hidden, stormed into small apartments and quiet neighborhoods. And for years, people asked the same question: who is going to stop this? Swalwell didn't just answer the question, he laid out the timeline. He began with a contrast so sharp it cut the room in half. There had just been a speech from a colleague whose background, as Swalwell pointed out, bears very little resemblance to the people most affected by the laws being debated. Yet that colleague insisted that the nation needed to get rid of the very workers who harvest our food, build our homes, fix our cars, and hold up entire local economies. Swalwell let the hypocrisy hang in the air for a moment, before carving straight into the heart of the issue. The legislation on the table wasn't about safety. It wasn't about protecting anyone. It was about making it even easier to remove more of the same neighbors and friends who had already been targeted relentlessly. Then he asked the question that froze the room: is it really that hard for you right now? If the goal was to storm communities, detain citizens, terrify women, and tear families apart, was the system truly struggling to do that? Because the examples we've seen suggest otherwise. In short, the point was brutal. If this is what enforcement looks like without expanded authority, what exactly are these agencies asking for? And why? The answer came in the form of a video he played, a recording so disturbing that the entire room tensed as the footage came alive. It showed agents forcing their way into a home. No warrant, no identification, no hesitation. A child crying as a chemical spray hit someone in the face. A mother pleading. A citizen insisting on his rights. Officers threatening, shouting, grabbing. The kind of moment that should exist only in cautionary documentaries about what happens when power grows too comfortable. But this wasn't a documentary, it was real. It happened in an American suburb. And according to immigrant communities and civil rights groups, this wasn't the worst example by far. For years, reports have surfaced, rumors, testimonies, shaky cell phone recordings, suggesting that some enforcement units move like ghost squads, masked, unmarked, and operating as if oversight were optional. Whether every allegation holds up under scrutiny or not, the pattern seen by millions of Americans is undeniable. Something is deeply broken. And Swalwell didn't stop there. He reminded the room of a father named Miguel Lopez, a man who lived in the same community for nearly 30 years, a man who paid taxes, raised kids, worked long days at a local winery, and did everything the system asked of him. He showed up for his immigration appointment, following the rules, and was immediately taken into custody and removed from the country. No crimes, no threats, no justification that served any purpose other than cruelty disguised as enforcement. And every Sunday, his family sits around the same table he occupied for 3 decades, staring at a chair that should not be empty. Stories like Miguel's aren't rare, they're part of a pattern that people inside those communities have been warning about for years. A pattern where the people most deeply woven into the fabric of American life are treated as disposable. A pattern where following the law doesn't protect you. A pattern where the powerful act because they can, not because they should. Then Swalwell pivoted, and the direction of the hearing changed instantly. He reminded the committee and the country that voters across the nation had sent a message. From Virginia to New Jersey to Pennsylvania to California, the public rejected the politics of fear. They rejected cruelty as a governing strategy. They rejected the idea that tearing families apart makes anyone safer. And whether some politicians want to admit it or not, that message echoed into the very chamber where he was speaking. Accountability is back on the national agenda. That's when Swalwell dropped the line that now has millions replaying the moment. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, you should familiarize yourself with the four corners of this room. The temperature shifted instantly. A name isn't just a reference, it's a spotlight. And he didn't name them to shame them. He named them to warn them. He told them, plainly, that the witness chair in that very room, the same one they've watched others sit in, will soon have their names taped to it. And they won't be in that chair for ceremonial photos. They'll be in it answering questions, under oath, with subpoena power behind every sentence. He repeated the warning, each time sharpening it. You will sit there. You will answer. You will be examined. You will be held to the same standards of law you claim to enforce. And the phrase that sealed the moment, you've got about a year. Some called the remarks unusually bold, others called them overdue. But what cannot be denied is this, that speech marked a seismic shift. For years enforcement leaders and political appointees operated with the quiet confidence that oversight would never come, that even if mistakes were made, if communities were traumatized, if legal procedures were bypassed, if families were separated, no one with actual power would force them to explain what happened and why. But this time is different. There's a cultural shift happening within the country, a growing impatience with institutions that act without transparency, and the public mood is no longer receptive to the idea that security requires unchecked authority. There is a rising insistence that power must come with restraint, that authority must come with visibility, that decisions impacting millions cannot be made behind closed doors. Analysts and civil liberties groups have long suggested that some agencies operate in ways that drift beyond the edges of clear legal boundaries, not necessarily out of malice, but because the systems designed to regulate them are outdated, understaffed, or simply ignored. Whether those claims are entirely accurate or partly speculative, the perception has become reality for millions who live with the consequences. And in politics, perception is power. Swalwell's comments landed not merely because they were fiery, but because they articulated what so many have been whispering. The system has been running without consistent oversight, and the people affected by it have been carrying the burden alone. He made it clear that this era is ending. Soon Noem and Homan will not be speaking at friendly press conferences. They will be seated at a table under bright lights, sworn in, and required to answer, not evade, questions about the internal decisions and practices that shaped years of enforcement. They will be asked about warrants, about masks, about identification failures, about registry lapses, about why citizens were detained, about the use of force in peaceful neighborhoods, about why certain legal orders were ignored, and about why the public was told one thing while communities experienced another. Some insiders quietly speculate that internal documents could reveal inconsistencies between public statements and actual procedure, though that remains unconfirmed. But even the possibility of such revelations explains why this speech resonated beyond the hearing room. Because when oversight returns after a long absence, a lot of dust gets kicked up. Swalwell's speech wasn't just an attack, it was a prediction. He wasn't just warning two officials, he was telling the public that the invisible structures that allowed these actions are about to be exposed, that those who believed they were insulated by political alliances or bureaucratic distance will soon face questions that can't be dodged. And deeper still, he was reminding everyone watching that democracy only works when power is answerable, when even the most intimidating institutions can be asked, plainly, why did you do this? And who authorized this? And who benefited from this decision? For too long those questions went unasked. Now they will be unavoidable. But the most striking part of the moment wasn't any single line, it was the calm certainty in Swalwell's voice. He didn't sound like someone making threats, he sounded like someone delivering news. The kind of news that comes after months of conversations, quiet organizing, shifting political winds, and a country deciding it is done with silence. Because here's the truth, sunlight always arrives eventually, and institutions that rely on darkness never survive the dawn unchanged. Swalwell ended his remarks by reminding the country that this isn't simply political drama, it's a constitutional necessity. Oversight isn't punishment, it's maintenance, it's the mechanism that keeps a democracy healthy, and what happens next will determine whether the public regains trust in a system that has failed too many for too long. If you want more breakdowns like this, commentary that cuts through the noise, explores what's really at stake, and follows the investigations as they unfold, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. The next chapter is coming, and you'll want to be here the moment it drops.